welcome back to the Millennial Outliers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Deal, with my right-hand man, Tyler Arjun. What's up, Ty Guy?
What's up, brother?
We're back 2 in a row, which always feels nice. Like I said on the last one, I don't get to see Tyler too often, so it's always nice when we get together in the booth. We get to shed some light on some other great people in the community and obviously just spend time communicating. So
have a good time, right?
That's it. The best day ever as always, my friend.
Always.
So we have some new friends to me. These are actually good friends of Tyler's. We have Terri and Joe Parker. So thank you so much for being here with us today, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us, guys. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Looking forward to learning a bit more about you guys, the mortgage industry, coaching programs, higher level thinking. So I'm going to let Ty Guy get us kicked off, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I'll go back to kind of how I met you both, and then we'll get into some of the questions and all that good stuff. So I met Terri. If you remember, Terri, I met you at Death of the Fox for a 1-to-1 because you met my mom, prior. And crazy enough, you live down the street from my mom, I found out. And my mom's lived there since I was a senior in high school. I'm not sure how long you lived in that house, but I think it was, probably years before that. Didn't even know it. So then, we met at Death of the Fox. Like I said, you live right down the street from my mom. You're good friends now with my mom.
She's my best friend. Actually.
Yeah, there you go.
I love that.
And, you guys are very similar, very successful entrepreneurs, hustlers, you work hard. And, I also wanted to have Joe on because similar to, like my family, right? I have my mom, you have your mom, both in business together. I'm not in my mom's business, but I'm in the industry, right?
Definitely. Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough in it. Yeah.
So, and then Justin, right? We were kind of talking before this episode. We had an episode with our moms. You're in business with your mom.
Yeah.
So I
Best
thought
partner in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought it really kind of fit the theme of our show, having you both on with how successful you are, and you're also in business together and all that good stuff. So, so let's go to, we like to go back first and then kind of come up to where we're at today. So Terri, what got you into mortgages? Like, I don't know any of this myself. So when did you start? How did you get into it? What made you get into it?
So I started in November of 97.
Oh.
So a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't want to say how old I am or anything.
So you started at 14, man. God bless.
I like
Wild.
that. I worked at a doctor's office actually, because that's what I went to school for, and I was like drawing blood and bringing a patient back and all that kind of stuff. And the doctor's office in the back, we had a billing department, and one of the guys in the billing department worked for a mortgage company. And that particular mortgage company at that time, it was a consumer credit discount company, which is like the kind of mortgages that you give to people that are getting like windows and doors and things like that in the 90s, not like buying a house.
Like home equity loan?
Yeah,
kinda?
like a secured second mortgage at like 30%.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
Well, they were getting sued because they basically, for whatever the reason was, they were getting sued. And the guy says, hey, the company I work for full-time is getting sued, and we think that the people don't speak English, they only speak Spanish, and this mortgage company is trying to hire somebody to come in and just sit in the back as like, a guest and, see what they're whispering and translating between the plaintiff or whatever. And so sure enough, fast forward, she was getting led on by somebody that was sitting next to her, telling her what to say. And so when I brought that to their attention, the judge then brought in like a legal translator, and the mortgage company won, and then they offered me a job. And I started actually with doing collections.
Wow.
So I call people saying, hey, you weren't paying your mortgage on
That's
time.
the hard part.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how
So
I
you had those
actually
difficult
started.
conversations early on in your career.
Yeah. So I started doing 30-day lates. I ended up getting all the way through to do foreclosures, which was really hard. Not sure I would do that now with the experience I have. And, being older, I don't think I would want to do that job, like displacing people.
Yeah, that's right.
But it definitely showed me how to do loans backwards, which I think helps me today like a ton, because I know kind of how it works on the back end. Honestly, in most cases, more than the front end. That's what I have Joe for, is on the front end, actually. So
That's super important in business. I'm glad you said that, because I've always said that's one of my superpowers. Is I grew up in operations. That was not my strong suit, though. But I really understand my business from the ground up. And now being in sales and kind of running the business more, I really understand the full scope, where we all know those snake oil salesmen that just kind of, yeah, we could do that. Absolutely. And they kind of put it on the ops team. I can actually have those nuts and bolts conversations and be like, well, no, that's not how it would work. We're going to have to do it this way, or here's the workaround. That way I'm not pinning my operations team to something that I know they can't fulfill.
yeah, or what's going to come back to you on the back end, like as a business owner. you know, a lot of times people only see the transaction from, you know, let's say getting pre-approved and buying a house, and they think it ends there. But, you know, for us, it doesn't. It can, you know, we have a loan right now that is an issue that's 6 months after closing. And, you
Can't
know,
sell it.
yeah, we have to restructure it and, you know, do all these types of things. So that was really helpful in learning how to do that.
I'll bet. So, Joe, question for you. So, I also, as we said, you know, my mother's my partner, and that can sometimes be a tough dynamic, right? It's like, as I was talking to Terri before, there really isn't a line where business ever stops, right? It's like you're in a family birthday party, we're still talking business. We're at dinner together, we're talking, we're on vacation.
We're at a pool party.
Business pops up.
Business.
Full party, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how has the experience been for you, and what are maybe some of the tougher parts, but what's some of the beauty you found in some of those tough obstacles that you face?
Well, I mean, as far as like, because actually my dad works there too, so
Okay.
I'm with my whole
It's a whole
family,
family.
and,
Oh, that's
and my
awesome.
brother too.
And brother.
Came aboard. My younger brother's my processor too, which is great. But I mean, really, the biggest thing when it comes to working with family is, I mean, all of my friends and even close people that I went occasionally, they don't see their parents every day. So like, I think I'm really lucky to be able to work with my parents every day, and it's a good excuse to like maybe take a 5-minute walk with my pop, or like, you know, my favorite thing too is like, and something my mom showed me, when we're working through loan issues, and sometimes like when we're a lender, we might be the second or third company to deal with an issue. And it's cool that me and my mom can kind of tag team that and get it done, and we get to meet that client and kind of do everything together. And I mean, there's stories that we have that, and honestly, friends and people we've gotten really close with, but probably been with you, what, how long, mortgage-wise? Over 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's
So-
12 or 13 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we still talk to a lot of people, even though we're not even doing their mortgage.
But we
and-
have rules. We have rules like, all right, we're going over for dinner and we're not talking about
Yeah.
work tonight. And then it lasts like
It never
5
lasts.
I was just saying.
Yeah, that doesn't last.
That's when my wife goes, okay, I got it. Yeah. The good thing is I don't speak Spanish, which is something that is unfortunate for me, something that I want to do. But at least we don't speak Spanish together
That's
about
true.
loans in front of Dad, because he would be really
Hey,
confused.
be like, man, you guys
Yeah.
are definitely talking about me, right? It's like when you're in a nail shop, right? They're talking, you're like, they are definitely judging
Well, it's like
me right
Terri
now.
in court. She was like a plant. Yeah,
Yeah.
like listening in the back, like what they were talking about.
It's funny because you go back and you think about that, and I'm like, you know, I was making $10 an hour was the offer that I got at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my husband, like, I'm making $7.50 an hour. I'm getting this awesome job for $10 an hour. And I was like so excited to start this job.
Yeah.
And now I think about not only how much everybody makes and stuff, which we're so fortunate and blessed and all, but also how entitled, I don't know if you have that in your business, obviously doing payroll, but how entitled some of the people are when they come in to do interviews and stuff that we say.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, I want to work 30 hours a week. I want to work from home one of those days.
And make
and-
$50K a year.
Exactly.
Oh,
And never
man.
did a mortgage before.
I was going to say, it's usually like 100K base salary, full benefits,
Yeah.
matching pension.
It's
You're like,
usually the
"Ooh."
young people. It's
Yeah.
Yep.
they're
Yeah.
out of
Well, that's what
out
the
of
colleges
touch.
kind of,
Yeah, they're out of
unfortunately, they
touch.
preach.
Absolutely. And I got a 2-week vacation planned after the first week I
Oh,
start.
that's just like all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Just wanna
exactly.
get a
I
heads
actually
up.
had that too. Yeah, recently. I was like, okay, I guess.
I know. Like, you didn't say that in your interview, though.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
you know, but I think that the best part about things that we've done together, which might be the coolest thing, is we've helped so many people like that didn't have mortgage experience come in. And like, we have this one girl that was like a good friend of ours that Joe kind of worked alongside with and grew up together. She's also one of my really good friends. And she started as like a processor. And now she literally runs her own branch, her own region. She relocated to Texas, built her whole entire business up there. And like, this girl just literally bought a $2 million house.
Nice.
Wow.
Bought a brand new pink Porsche, which I'm
That's
very
awesome.
much a fan of.
Yeah.
But it's cool because we've seen, like, we've helped change. I mean, we didn't do their job every day, obviously, but
No,
Yeah.
hard
I'd
work.
like
help
to
them with
say-
the tools.
Hard work
Yeah.
and support. And the good thing is,
Yeah,
is like
definitely.
they didn't change who they were
Mhm.
at all. You would have no idea that, because the personality wise, exactly the same. And that's kind of like how we are too. Like when we lived in Philly, I mean, you know, we weren't always it wasn't always the way that it was by
Sure.
any means, but we haven't changed how we are. And I think a big part of that too is, you know, we were always so close. Because even when I was on mortgages, you know, me and my mom, best friends.
Mhm.
You know, we're always talking about things, and might be because the age gap, as you could probably see. We get mistaken for a brother and
I
sister
get that
all the time.
Oh yeah.
Which is great, but also confuses a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's entertaining.
It gets
Yeah,
tough
yeah,
when
yeah.
they start to think you're the older one, though. I
Well,
get
you
that
go
with my
through that too,
parents.
right?
Oh my God,
Renee had you when you were
when she was 17.
17.
Yeah,
But my
same.
yeah.
Yeah.
But my
And I had
father's literally
19.
he
I
ages
had a kid.
backwards,
Yeah.
so he's always they're like, "Oh, you're the older brother," and I'm like, "God damn it!"
Dude, my
I thought I
husband
looked all right,
so
but-
good. It like infuriates me.
Yeah.
Just side note.
Yeah, it's
Like he
unbelievable.
literally has like all his hair, hardly any gray hair.
He is a
It,
good looking
like,
dude.
He is. I mean, he's definitely super hot. But he really doesn't age really.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. One thing I want to circle back to that you guys were
Yeah,
talking about. We talk about culture quite a bit, and I really love what you were saying about other people, doing well. Because I always say I think that's the coolest part of business. It's great to build your own finances and things like that, but to empower other people to create things they never thought were possible at one point in life, right? Like we've all gone through that, but to be able to live by that example for your team, and then to show them what the steps are, how to guide, how to do it, and then they buy the house, they buy the car, they get married, they start the family, they go on the dream trips. Even though you didn't do it, you helped them get there. And I always say there's deposits to the soul and there's deposits to the bank account. And that deposit to the soul just hits so much better.
I'm gonna tell you something that about this girl, just to kind of put it in perspective. That's like my favorite thing, is that I'll call her and say, "Oh my God, I love your car, I love your house, whatever. Like you're doing so good, high five." And she'll say, "No, I love that I hired this person and that they're doing it." So I think that that's the thing that we got lucky. I don't really know how we did it. But we got lucky in teaching other people is that they always don't care about the stuff. Like they're never like, "Oh, because I went on a cruise or whatever." Like obviously that's all fun and everything. Yeah. But every single branch manager we have, I think, is about paying it forward. And so someone did that for me, obviously. And when I started in mortgages, I had a mentor when I took my second mortgage job, which I've only worked at 3 mortgage companies in 30 years, by the way.
Which is insane. And, for anyone who's unfamiliar with the mortgage industry, I know people who have been in like 10 companies in 3 years.
I was just going to say, top of mind, I can think of 2 people that fit that
We're probably
bucket.
thinking of similar people. Yeah.
Well, Joe's not allowed to go anywhere, so he has to stay here forever.
You're
so
stuck,
that's
buddy.
easy.
You're one company.
You better get that tattooed on your body there, big
I know,
dog.
I'm probably kind of running out of room. But
But I mean, I've only been at 3 companies. In my first company, I worked for this woman named Carla, who basically like taught me everything and was my mentor. And so it's just so neat to be able to like pass that on to other people, to your point.
Yeah.
And that's like, I would definitely say that's like my favorite part, which is why me and your mom decided to start coaching companies.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And we're going to get into that real quick though, before we jump off the last topic. Cause I just want to stress about that 3, that shocks me. 3 mortgage companies in 30 years is insane because like I said, we literally know people who like 6 in the last like 4 years.
Yeah.
But that like goes to show you, and it kind of a lesson there is that like you are your business, right? Meaning you are going to be successful whether you're at this lending company, this lending company, this lending company, as long as you have the base tools, right? Or whatever it is, software that you guys, I don't know, like the back end, but like as long as you have that base, it doesn't matter if you're, at this mortgage company or this mortgage company. It's like you are, your business.
You.
Right?
I also think it's working through relationships, right? Like I've also been with my husband since I was 15, right? And I'm going to be 50. So I don't know how loud I want to yell that. But,
well, you look amazing for almost being 50, girlfriend. So you should shout that from the rooftops.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You should.
But, so I think a big part of our business, no matter what we do, is about relationships. Like, listen, I love working with my son, right? And we're all happy and now. But there are times where he wants to like literally kill me. I'm sure. Like probably 1 out of 5 days a week, like honestly, for like a few minutes. And then we're like, all right, I'm fine. I love you and whatever. And then one of us are upset. And then 2 minutes later, we're like high five and everything. But you have to like, I think successful people should know how to work through relationships. And believe me, there was times where like, I'm leaving this company and I don't want to work here or their programs stink or their rates are too high or whatever. But then it's just cyclical and it just goes, you work through it and it's fine. And so, maybe it's over loyalty on my part because, with my one boy and one company and I don't want to bounce around on things. So clearly I'm not a big fan of change. But I think that's a big part of being like a loyal person, to be honest.
That's one of our biggest traits is we do see things through to the end. Like, I mean, I heard like this thing once. I remember a good friend of mine who I don't talk to anymore, unfortunately. But I remember he said something a long time ago because when I grew up, like when I was a really little kid, I used to skateboard, and unfortunately, like that, I guess genre of sport, it unfortunately bleeds in a lot of bad background and stuff like that. But I remember my one friend Chris, he said, I think he heard it from a movie. He said, the best way to the top is to bring people with you.
Yeah.
And I think he said that in like 7th grade. So this is like, I don't even know,
Man,
25 years ago.
stoic.
Yeah, I was like, wow. And I was like,
7th grader,
really
8th
cool,
grader,
cool. It might have
geez.
been from like Empire Records or something. I don't know.
Still.
We're all
You remembered it.
Yeah, like pizza and
Yeah,
Mountain
sat
Dew
with
until
them,
4
yeah.
o'clock in the morning. So he might have been losing his mind. But I do remember
That's
that.
awesome,
But we
though.
do stick things out, like with teaching people, like, you know, I had a lot of younger kids in the area that when we grew up, like in Deptford, that I took in that like didn't have older brothers. So I would be hanging out with kids that were like, I'd be like 15 and this kid would be like 10 and he'd be with like at my side the whole time. So I kind of like translated that from
Business.
how my mom and my dad were with me to them, to my brothers, and then to work.
Yeah.
I think in a simple statement to wrap a lot of that up is the grass is always greener where you water it, right? And like that's what it is. It
That's a good
doesn't.
line too, right?
you know,
there.
That's
it's
really
like-
good. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
a
good
good
one.
line right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, like
Save that one in the hopper.
It's true though.
Yeah, it's the effort, right? It's like it always looks like it's greener over there, but that's because somebody has been, you know, maintaining it. They've been keeping up with it. They've been pulling the weeds. They've been fertilizing. They've been watering. Like there's action that goes involved with everything.
But I also think companies are only as good as their people.
Absolutely, as your weakest person
Right.
to be even more. Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
my husband was telling me something the other day. This is like off topic, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
And he was showing me this YouTube video thing because, you know, everybody's like on their phone all the time or whatever. And he's like, it said something like, okay, somebody comes into your office and says, hey, I want a raise. And the video, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but it was like, okay, well, what are you going to do for like my growth? What are you going to do for my company's future? And he was like, so many employees look at it as like, what am I doing now? And I'm working hard and I'm doing a great job now. And so I deserve a raise. And they said like a good business person looks at it and says, okay, what you do now is what you're getting compensated for now, and what you're, you know, what you come to work and earn every single day.
Yep.
But where your raise comes from is how you're going to grow my company.
Yeah, it's an
And I
investment.
thought that was so huge.
yeah. Yeah, have to be able
yeah.
to either cross train or you take things off other people's plates within the business, and that's what then makes you more valuable. That an employee's job is to create themselves to be invaluable for the company, and that's how you get good reviews, you get good raises. Is you have to become irreplaceable, and the
Yeah.
only way to do that is to continue growing with the company.
and not just doing what you're asked to do,
Yeah.
going, you know,
Outside the box.
above that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I want to get back earlier because you had said something that kind of struck a chord with me, was that I hate when people say they're self-made, right? Because everybody had a hand up at some point, right? Somebody helped them, somebody bestowed wisdom in them, they gave them an opportunity, whatever you want to call it. So we're very big into self-development here. We talk a lot about having the proper mentors, how you meet people. So A, when did you start seeking mentorship? And then B, what led you to actually get into coaching?
So one is, you know, I had a son very young, as you guys know, and I didn't go to college for, you know, different reasons. I went to Creative and Performing Arts High School, by the way. And then when I got pregnant back then, they were like, you can't be a ballerina and be in high school because it's like a hazard and whatever else. And so I, you know, my whole life kind of like transformed, which is wonderful.
You're welcome.
That's all right.
So-
You're welcome.
Now I'm in mortgages and I'm not a ballerina, so there's that.
Well, you helped with that one, John.
We definitely dance around the
Thank
office a
God,
lot,
by the
for
way.
sure.
There you
Thank God. But what I realized very young, I think through like survivalship, really is what it was that people are going to train you and they're going to teach you. But if you want to really be a star, you have to take the initiative and like tag on to like the successful people and make that initiative and say, what are you doing right now? I have 5 minutes. And so what I did was the boss that I had was really scary. And I never forget this in my whole life, because keep in mind, I was making like $35,000 a year, right? And I thought that was the best job ever, which is a great job, right? But this lady was 36 years old and she had a W-2. I will never forget it for my whole life. She had a W-2 framed on her wall. And I thought it was so like absurd. I was like, it was the craziest thing. And I kept looking at it thinking it was like fake, right? And she said she framed her W-2 because she had made $998,000 that year and she didn't make $1 million. And she wanted a reminder every single day that she didn't make $1 million.
Love that.
So she framed it and had it in her office, right?
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. Because keep in mind, for the first couple of years, I thought it was fake. I was like, oh, it's fake. And it's just like a sales thing and whatever. And then as I started realizing through people in the office, it was like a real W-2. And that is the moment where I realized, like, she is not a superhero. Like she can do it, I can do it, and
Yep.
I'm gonna attach to this woman to the end of time. And that's what I did. I literally would drive to New York from Philly to Long Island. Took me like 4 hours.
Mhm.
And I would get in her car and I would drive with her in the passenger seat all day, and I would listen to what she said and I would write things down. And I would do that all the time. Joe remember she was little.
You'd be getting home at what, 2, 3 in the morning, getting up again,
Yeah.
Wild.
6, 7, hitting the road again. I mean, it was
You put that time
was
in.
wild.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was gonna learn from this woman because I was like, this lady's making $1 million and I'm making 35 grand.
Whatever she's doing, I'm doing.
That's just the way it is. And that's what I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, is like, take that initiative and, say to somebody like, hey, I know this is my training or whatever, but let me stay another 5 minutes. Let me ask you a question or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I did. And that's the way I really tell everybody when they start. I'm like, listen, I can teach you everything,
Yep.
but you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And
Yeah.
that I can't teach you.
Yep.
And you really do have to, you kind of almost have to run a lot of people through a filter, because I think to your point earlier, most folks will teach you and coach you up, but not to beat them, right? They'll teach you how to get to almost their level. Most folks don't want to see you succeed further than they have, right? Especially a lot of times this will probably boil down to friendships and stuff like that. People support you, and then they see you're doing too well by their standards.
It's a shame.
And it's like, oh, well, we're from the same town. We have a similar background. How did she do it? How did he do it? And it's like, well, now I'm not supporting anymore because they seem like they're doing way better than me. And a lot of times that happens with mentors, and people don't realize that it becomes like a competition. So when you find those people who are giving you that hand up, not looking for handouts or not competing with you all the time, you have to figure out if you have to drive 4 hours, if you have to compensate them for their time. Those are the people that you have to be in the rooms if you truly want to continue to grow.
Well, perfect example. Me and Joe were just talking about this in the parking lot, like 2 seconds before we walked in. And we were saying, Joe has already surpassed me at his age, almost double, right? Like he knows, and he's been doing it, let's say 10 years. I've been doing it 30, which is a little bit more than 10, but he knows almost, if not more than I do, about most of the things with loans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I go to him for help all the time. Like, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I calculate this income? And then, of course, he's like a loan ninja, so he fixes all my crap.
The
but-
biggest thing, like why I ended up landing where I was, when I was, growing up, I would see, her stressed out or whatever was going on. And then when I started working and everything, and I've always been kind of a, worker. It's like, when you're a worker, you're a worker.
Yeah.
And I honestly just got tired of seeing, her stressed out. So I just kind of learned by force, just so that way I'm like, hey, what can I take off your plate? What can I take off your plate? What can I take off your plate? And then eventually it got to the point where I was like, all right, I got my plate, you got your plate. And
now we're like, we have to hire people.
now you gotta hire people. Yeah. And then like, that's the thing too. It's like for me, like with the whole training thing, I'm real big on who we hire. Like I'm really meticulous in who we hire. Cause we've, just like anything else, we have been with the same company for a while, but we have churned out people, right? Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. That's fine. This business isn't always for everyone, right? Let's be honest. If you're in the mortgage industry, the real estate industry, or anything that's even sort of intertwined, you need to be a little off, So I feel like for me, like I just hired somebody as my loan partner, and he has absolutely zero mortgage experience at all. But the only thing we did was we were having a cars and coffee, and I was with my sons, and I was pushing a double stroller, and he was just super nice to my kids. And I was like, just got into talking to him. He's like, yeah, we're looking for a job. I was like, want an interview? That was enough for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's because like I feel like
Because we want to hire nice, good people.
you
what
just
mean.
exactly,
Yeah.
but people that that nice, good people, and sometimes you kind of just feel when somebody wants to really give it their all and grow.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's contagious,
Yeah.
right? It's not really a competition. It's kind of like just growth.
Yeah.
Really.
Well,
Yeah,
mindset and attitude are two of the most important things, right? Because I can teach you the skills, but I can't teach you to be a caring, empathetic
Right.
human being. I can't teach you
Yes, that's
to
right.
actually want to contribute and be part of this and grow it.
Yeah.
But I can teach you the X, Y, and Z, how to do and how to build and how to, process mortgages, what to look for. Those are the easy parts. It's the intangibles, to your point, that's what we're looking for when we hire.
But we want the people that come with us to do better than us. Like we have a guy right now, Ramsey, right? This guy is amazing, like incredible, like literally incredible. I can't even explain it to you, right? Am I wrong? He's like incredible.
If
right?
anything, he needs to slow it down.
He's incredible.
Super eager, not afraid.
But I already said to him, like last night we're in the parking lot at 8 o'clock at night when we left the office, and I was like, here's your plan. Like you're gonna take your test, you're gonna get licensed by this time, you're gonna, have your own business, you're gonna start your own account pyramid, you're gonna, like we were already talking about the plan, like already my head's going on how to help this guy be successful. And I know that the income he can earn with his talent and work ethic is going to change his life.
Yeah.
Like 100% going to change his life because it happened to me. And so I know this guy's got it. Like, it just makes me, that is fulfilling to me
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
like closing the next loan, to be honest with you.
And it's super cool to know that, and the person you're talking to and you're telling that to has no idea.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
Yes.
okay. It's just like today's Tuesday, you know. But
Yeah.
you're like, no,
Like, I
dude,
got that
you don't
50K
understand.
that I wanted.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm
I
living a
know.
better life now.
I was like, you write down the things that you did today. Think of how many lives and how many people you helped out with like the simplest things.
Mhm.
Like if you got like 3 settlements, I'm like those 3 people, like they you know, some people, like we did first loans for people that are in their 70s, 60s.
Wow.
You know what I mean? We got people
That's really
crying and
cool.
stuff, and it's like doing multiple of those. You know, it's really, really cool to see. But you know, not to keep talking about Ramsey, but Ramsey's like, as you could see, me and my mom, we're very animated,
Mhm.
right? Ramsey's just very like, okay, cool,
He's so nonchalant,
Mellow.
chill, so
super
chill.
nonchalant.
Yeah.
But you gave me an idea though that I want to do that I didn't think of. Is I want him to write that moment down. I want to get him to do that so that in 3 years I can go back and be like, do you remember talking about this in this very moment? Because me and Jenny talk about all the time that we were so tight with money when we opened up the branch. We opened up our branch in 2008
Mhm.
and the market
Perfect
was
time.
crashing.
Yeah,
and everybody was
man.
like, and
Yeah,
we were like,
rough
we're
time.
opening up.
Yeesh.
And the people would be like, hey, you have good credit. You have, savings or whatever, but we're not financing this copy machine. We're not leasing it to you because your business is a mortgage company and everyone else is closing down.
Yeah.
So we had to pay for everything out of like our bank account, like everything, phone system, which obviously there's no phone systems anymore, but like
Yeah,
pretty much
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Even our lease, they made us pay a year in advance.
Wow.
But my
Wow.
point is that me and Jenny talk about it all the time. We're like, we would go on our credit cards and say, all right, I'll pay your cell phone this month. You'll pay my cell phone this month. And we always say, dang, we should have wrote down like where we thought we'd be right now,
Mhm.
because we would look at that paper right now and say we would never think in a million years that we are where
That
we
you're
are
at.
right now.
Yeah.
So it would have been cool to see that.
Yeah, you do one of them. Remember in like school, like whatever, 3rd grade or whatever, you put like a capsule
Yes.
Yeah,
in the,
time
in the
capsules,
thing.
yeah.
I don't know where mine is actually.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
We just
But
had
it's
our
like that.
20 year
Your mom might be
reunion.
moving at some point and you might find
Yeah, I
it.
don't know if it's there. It's yeah, I don't know where it is, but
That's funny.
Yeah.
pull it out, see some old stuff.
That's why gratitude is so powerful, and that's why it's important, because
Yeah.
there's a million things to be grateful for every morning. A lot of times we get caught up in the rat race and just that one thing, the traffic, the running 5 minutes late, and gratitude always brings you back, right? It just makes you super happy, thankful for what you have in life, and it's a lot of times the smallest things that matter.
Yeah, yeah, and on we were talking about the self-made thing.
Mhm.
You made the comment about no one's self-made, but I think like the flip side of that is like Terri was going over what you did, right, with going to Long Island and all that, and you got all that advice from that woman, right? But you had to take that initiative. Like you had to drive there. It wasn't like nobody's going to just give you a handout and
Yeah.
just start pouring in knowledge to you. You got to kind of pull that out. And that's what you did. You drove 4 hours. You would get home at 3 a.m. and you do it again. But that's, why you are where you are today. So I would like kind of challenge that a little bit and say you are self-made, which most of us are, because like, again, no one's just going to give you that knowledge. Like you had to pull that out of somebody. And
It's even
I
the
think-
work ethic too. Like not to keep praising my son here, because I know you guys are all sons of successful women, and I'm not supposed to have a favorite in the room or anything. But
You got to have a favorite here. It's your
I was
son.
gonna say, yeah, they're allowed to be
so
biased.
then I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
that's fine. So, but when we started, again, we were like really limited on funds because we loyal people. We had all of our retirement funds invested in the stock of our company, like 90% of it.
Yeesh.
And so when the company went out of business in 3 days,
Mhm.
they kept telling us
On
we're
the
not
way
going
to
out of
Disney World.
business. Yeah, we were on the way to Disney
On the way to
World.
Disney World, pulled over.
Oh.
They made me lay off all of my friends 3 days before Christmas. I won't say the company's name. They told me you're going to be fine though because you're a VP, so you're going to be fine. So we're laying off all of our friends on the way to Disney. They're like, take this 2-week vacation. We're going to give you 10 grand to go, whatever. And when you come back, the company's going to be like rebuilt and re-great and all this stuff. And so we're like, this is going to be great. We're going to be fine. We're going to ride through this, whatever.
Oh.
So then we get to North Carolina. We get a speeding ticket. This is a good
Yep.
story, by the way.
This was definitely
all a true
this is the
story.
moment for me where I was like, okay, it's time to like really step in and grind this out.
Oh, wait. So here
It gets
we're
worse.
in North
gets
Carolina.
worse.
We get a speeding ticket, right?
Yep.
We get to Georgia. They tell us the company is going out of business.
Yep.
We get to Florida. The stock drops from like $23 a share to like $2 a share. All of our money's in it. It happened within like not even a day.
Oh.
Okay. Then we get to Florida, we get checked in. I'm having like a complete full-on nervous
Oh
breakdown
God, I
at
would
this
have
point,
threw
right?
up. Yeah.
I wake up the next morning, not joking with you, and I get a call from the doctor, and it's like, you have to call me back like right away, right?
Oh God.
So of course I'm like, I call back. I'm like thinking, why should I leave a message? Long and short is that I was pregnant with my third son,
And you're losing your job.
I
Yeah.
lost my. And then an hour later, they have a conference call. They shut the company down. The stock goes to nothing. So we lost all of our money. So fast forward, we come back. Me and Joe were talking about this, and we're like, how are we going to pay our bills? Thank the Lord, my husband was working and was making a great living and had a great job and everything. But, we still were like, well, now I wanted to open up this mortgage company, and we had like no money. So Joe, being in high school, just to talk about worth ethic, right? He goes, all right, what are leads? We don't have money for leads. We didn't do retail in years. He literally started calling clients out of the white pages, asking them if they
Let's
own
go.
their
Love that.
house. He's like, do you own your house? Do you want to borrow any money? Do you need to refinance? Do you want to buy another house?
Man.
Out of the white pages in our basement.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Using Point, which if anybody that's a mortgage person knows Point, you're gonna go, oh.
This
Yeah,
is
that's
a,
tough
this is
stuff.
a
It's
son
rough.
and mother partnership that I'm telling you started out of my basement, pregnant with no job. And he was like,
Love
this is
that.
what we're going to do. And we sat in the basement and called
In high
clients out of the
school.
white pages.
That's awesome.
times.
That's a great story.
So that's why we do this
That's a-
podcast, right? These are
Yeah.
the stories that I kind of live for, because when we first started this, our whole concept was, I think a lot of people see our lives on social media and they just think it's always been like that, or we were lucky, or we had the spoon, or
Look
whatever
at this car
BS
they
that
have
you want
for
to.
this.
And so many
exactly.
people never take the time to go back. Like my mother has a saying, whenever people are like, oh, I want your life. And she was like, well, you got to take all 57 years. You can't just choose the last couple.
Yeah.
And that
That's
story is a reminder to everybody out there, like there's always going to be friction. There's always going to be failures. There's always going to be lessons. And you have to keep showing up and fighting if you want to be successful. If you don't, you can lay down, become comfortable, and do whatever your life's going to allow you to do at that point. But if you want to take the bull by the horns, you're going to have to be okay with failing. And look what that's become.
It's kind of nuts. I'm telling you, it's so crazy. We're having this conversation like literally in your parking lot about this same stuff.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
like,
Mhm.
it's so unfortunate that people like expect to somehow be at, have those things, not just like the materialistic things, but, the teams or the staff or the whatever properties or whatever it is. And they don't, to your point, don't realize like, it's like, okay, well, I have a 30-year head start,
Mhm.
So it's like a lot of people doing it in 10 or 15s are like blessed and lucky that they have that. But I just don't think envy should come into that, because I'm like, listen, there's nothing to be envious about. It was very difficult to do all those things, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they say comparison's the thief of all joy, right? But I always say, unless you're comparing tools. If I'm also in the mortgage industry, I look up to you and I'm like, hey, these are the bottlenecks I'm having in my business, and you're nice enough to give me that info. Well, that's something I can comparatively use and actually go forward with. But if I'm just looking at your life, I always tell people, I'm like, we're on completely different chapters of a book. Like you're in chapter 30 and most of these people are in chapter 1, but they want everything in between without those 29 chapters.
That's
And that's
really
just
good.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
That's actually really good.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
because that's the thing. It's like people are like, oh, you're doing this much business because you have a team and a branch in this. I'm like, yeah, but we have a team and a branch because we were doing the business.
weren't
to
always
get the
there.
team and
Yeah,
the
we
branch.
weren't
The
That's
two
how
of
it
us
works.
were in the basement
Yeah.
building this thing.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. They're like, oh, I like you. We're just gonna give you a team and a branch, and you can just do a bunch
But
of
think
loans.
about how lucky I am as a mom that my son was like 17 years old, right? Think about the maturity level of a 17-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, I still call Jack the baby, which he hates, and he's 16,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Now it's like, wow, had like a girlfriend and stuff.
He's
He
over
does.
here. I was
He's
like,
doing all
what the hell
kinds
am
of
I,
things
Bronco,
you
or
guys
am I
don't want to know what he's doing.
No, I
legally,
don't.
legally.
I'm like, oh my God. But you would be
Because
really
I met you,
shocked.
I probably
Yeah.
met you I think it was before COVID, right?
Yeah, it was
before
definitely
COVID?
before COVID.
Yeah.
I feel like I know you forever though, because like
And he
your
was, like,
family's
12.
literally like my family, honestly.
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah,
family's
yeah, yeah.
literally our
Because
family.
we loosely knew each other since like high
So
school.
we went to so he went to. I'm from Denver too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And then-
so
So we have mutual friends
Small
and
world.
everything too. And then when I
Yeah.
started seeing pictures before you had the husky beard, I was like, oh yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah.
I know
And
exactly.
Before
who he
those
is.
biceps too. My guy's been working out.
I know.
Yeah, yeah, making me look bad. The dad bod really seeping in.
We're gonna get you in the gym, dude. I've been trying to get
It's
him
all
in there.
seasons, brother.
I've been
All
trying to get
seasons.
him in there.
You're going through
Yeah.
a season right now.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I
You'll get
definitely got to
inspired.
get out of it, but
You'll
it's not
get
going to
there.
get out of itself. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Nah,
so.
you got to pull yourself
Start-
out of there.
You know how you found a why in the backseat of that car? Your kids are going to become that why to why you want to get in shape.
Yeah.
Already,
100%.
I'm telling you, like I would say that, like just for transparency, like with this job, or any job really. I don't want to use the word complacent, but like you start getting on this thing where you don't lose your why really, but it kind of gets a little foggy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that when I stepped into like the next gear was definitely when I became a dad, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I do every single thing. I'm sure people have said this before, but it's something you don't really understand until you're there.
100%.
But you do everything for your kids. Everything. How you
I
are as a
know.
person. Yeah, that's what I understand. But just anything. I almost pretend like throughout my day that I got like a hidden camera on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, what can I do in this moment so that if like my kids are watching this, like to be like, oh, that was a cool thing that dad did.
I love that you said that. I had a mentor that told me that years ago, and he said, at the end of the day, when you go home to your family, you should treat it as if you had a recording to show them. This is what I did today to make you guys proud, to move the family, to build the legacy.
But how cool, right? That we all work with our families, that you get to actually see that. You don't need that secret camera. Like I try to tell them all the time, like as much as you love your kids as much as we love you. So think about that, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Like you don't really think about that sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's just pretty, it's just super cool.
Yeah,
But to get to my point, I guess, it's like, think about the love that you have for a parent and the maturity that he has. That at 17 years old, he was like, my mom lost her career. My mom's pregnant. My mom's stressed out. Like, she's in the basement, like, working her ass off. And then gets out of high school and comes home and he's like, all right, I'm going to help you and here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's just something that
Crazy.
I'll like never forget in like my whole life, because I feel like in some weird way, I owe a part of like our success to that moment. It sounds
Sure.
really
Yeah.
weird to say that.
I think it's time to cash in, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, he's already going to get it anyway.
Yeah.
I got about 10 years.
Thank God
That's
for
it.
pocketbooks and eBay. 'Cause that got us through a few months. For sure. Yeah.
But you are right. Like
seriously.
until you become a parent, you really don't understand what unconditional love is. You think
Nah,
you
you
love your
don't.
wife,
Yeah,
you
you
think
don't.
you love your parents. But I always said when I had my first daughter, I was like, I realized there was a piece of my heart missing that I never even knew existed.
Aw,
Like that's the only
love
way I
my
could
soul.
articulate it. Yeah, it just is. Like you see this thing and you're like, I created that somehow and I'm responsible
crazy.
for them now for the rest of their lives, to mold them into a good human, to give them, a great life experience, to want to teach them how to want bigger, better, greater things, but to also not be an asshole at the end of the day, right?
exactly.
To raise
Be
a
a good
good
person.
human being.
I got to be
Yeah.
way nicer than I was.
No, you're just fine.
I got to be way nicer.
And by the way, we
My
are
word.
doing a phenomenal job at laying off the profanity for the
I
podcast.
know. I didn't say the
Nice.
F-bomb not
I'll
one
say it.
Did you
time.
guys say that
Girl.
before? You're like, let's not.
Let's tone it down.
We're
Let's
allowed to
tone
use
it down.
explicit
I was like, you can
language.
absolutely curse.
We have the explicit tag.
Yeah, in coaching, that is a no-no.
Yeah,
Act
yeah,
like a
very
lady.
True.
That's,
Very
that's
true.
fair.
Yeah.
So on some new news recently, Joe,
Mm-hmm.
you became branch manager officially, right?
Congrats.
Yes.
Congrats
Thank you,
on
guys.
that, brother.
Appreciate
Congrats.
that. Thank you.
So Terri, what you've went over this whole hour about, a lot about Joe and his work ethic. What, other than that, like made you say, I think he's ready. I'm going to have him be, the branch manager. And I'm going to take a little bit of a back seat.
Yeah, well, a lot of things happen at the same time. One is that first of all, he earned it, period. So that's just, he earned it.
Mhm.
Two is that the staff was already seeing him in that light. He just didn't have the title.
Yeah.
Like they were already going to him. He was already giving us like his opinion on who should be, get a coaching, who should have a coaching moment, we'll say, who
Mhm.
shouldn't be here anymore, who's a fit. So he was already like had all that insight and opinion that worked.
Yeah.
And also, me and Jay are focused on other things. Like I don't want to say that mortgage is not our priority because it is.
Mhm.
But you guys know I started a coaching company a year and a half ago. It's doing very well, thankfully.
It's
And it's a big passion for me. Like helping people and get mortgages is a big passion,
Mhm.
but making people successful is a little bit more fulfilling to me now in my life right now.
Yeah.
And so thankfully Joe has the experience and the leadership skills and all of that to take that lead on the company. And the truth is that he's going to run the company anyway.
Mhm.
So why not give him that next 10 years of mentorship and, help him through it, where I'm not just going to, unfortunately people, pass away or people retire and they're like, here you go. And then you're just like, oh crap, I got to figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I, that's pretty much where I got it from, is like, there's a joke that we have, and I'm like, everybody loves me until they meet Joe, and then they like him better. They don't call me anymore. That's like every realtor. They're like, oh
Unless-
my God,
unless they
she's
speak
great.
Spanish.
Joe's awesome.
They're like, they're like, she's great. She knows how to fix loans and, whatever. And then they meet Joe and then they don't call my cell phone anymore. So I'm like, okay.
That's a great feeling, though, probably,
Yeah.
as a
It
parent.
is a great
They
feeling.
did a great
Yeah.
job,
It is a
obviously.
great
Yeah, 100%.
So it's
And I can also go to Myrtle Beach whenever I want to. So that's
there you
also
go. More
another great
freedom,
feeling.
right?
Yes.
Freedom's the ultimate goal. So for the coaching community, what's your demographic? Who do you help?
So I am looking for business owners that make over 100,000 but make less than 500,000, that are struggling with their time management, and that when they go through the list of duties, right, like who does your payroll? I do. Who does your sales? I do. Who's handling your pipeline? I do. So if you're saying I do more than 50% of the time, maybe even 40% of the time, then you need a coach to figure out who should be doing those things.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the hires are not made out of fear.
Yeah.
And listen, I go through that. We just hired a bunch of people. And then I found myself saying to Joe, like, what's this person doing? What's that person doing? How many smoke breaks did they have? Whatever. And then I realized, like, I want a good culture. People deserve to have that freedom. And if they're performing, honestly, I don't really care what they're doing.
Yeah.
But what I had to do was have a conversation with Jay and say, this is my own fear that we kind of pre-hired in preparation for the refis that are now going to come. And we did that a little early so that we can train and,
we're
onboard
ready.
and all that.
Yeah.
And in that time when we didn't have that business, we moved. We just bought a new building, as you guys know.
Yep.
And it really freaked me out. And then I found myself maybe not being the best leader, not in front of them, but behind the scenes. And then I quickly caught, okay, I got those skills. I've had a coach. I know what this is. This is me freaking out and being scared. And I just need to check myself. And then, we did. And Joe and I have those conversations. Like, he's like,
Yeah.
yo, you need to relax.
We always talk it out too. I feel like that's the best thing with us is we're a really good balance.
Yeah.
We're a really good balance. She knocks me down a few notches. I knock her down a few notches. But the thing is, like me being a student in the coaching, which for right now I'm a student. But I
He's
mean,
getting a new coach in November.
yes,
Nice.
A
yes.
male coach other than his mom.
Nice.
But which I'm super excited about. And I think that the interesting is like you would think that I've like learned all these things from my mom and all this stuff, but sometimes I'm on these calls and I'm like, wow, I never heard of that one
Yeah,
before.
yeah, you're always
Let's
learning.
jot that down.
You're always learning.
And then she always says, now I have pictures. I have to send you these because they're absolutely hysterical.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
God.
one year for Halloween, my pop dressed up as Johnny Lawrence and she was Daniel LaRusso.
Oh, love it.
Because she teaches
Huge
the whole
Karate Kid
office
guy.
like Karate Kid. Like, that's how I'm teaching
Cobra Kai,
my sisters
baby.
right now. Yeah, Cobra Kai, phenomenal,
Yeah,
phenomenal,
strike first.
phenomenal. Yes, I still got to get through the season, but they
Huge Cobra Kai guy.
yeah, I love Cobra Kai.
Oh, God. I'm not.
I don't want to
Justin's
wait
not.
multiple months
I
for
was-
five.
I don't watch
for five
much TV,
episodes.
no.
No. But that's the
That's
biggest thing.
hilarious.
We always say wax on, wax off in our office. That's like something we've been saying for over a decade for sure.
Yeah.
But like when I teach, like I'll be teaching, my I don't want to call him my assistant, but my loan partner, and he's just like, and today I came here to do this, and I'm like,
Yeah.
here are these 5 things, and he texted me, he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm not sure like how I did this, but I did it, and I was like, perfect. He's like,
Karate
I've-
Kid, bro.
Yeah.
Karate Kid.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing just with like life, like being a parent. It's like the same exact thing.
Yep.
They, it's going to be contagious or whatever you're putting out.
Well, you have to let your kids fail, and then you help pick them back up. But they have to fall, and they have to learn those lessons. And a lot of times, that's what entrepreneurs are afraid of. Most people can't do it as well as we can, but them doing it at 70 or 80% and freeing you up is well worth that. And
It's a scale.
you have to invest too in their mistakes, right? Like a lot of people are quick to fire with like something that maybe could have been avoided, but you have to look at that as an investment in the business. Like, all right, I can either teach this person, and I can guarantee they'll never do it again because I'm probably going to scare the hell out of them because of what happened if it's a serious issue. Or I hire somebody new, lose the time with that person, retrain, repay. And now that person will probably make the same mistake because they haven't gone through it. They haven't felt the pain, the anxiety, all the things. And that's, to your point, as a parent, as a business leader, owner, we have to allow people to fail at times. Now, obviously, if it's something crazy, they're stealing, then, out the door.
Mhm.
But if it's something that's like, hey, maybe we could have a tighter process, or maybe this could be more clear, then you have to just take that one on the chin and realize, all right, that's part of the growth.
I also think it's best and highest use. And I also think it's sometimes talent. Like, we hire people all the time, often, and then we hire them for a specific position, but naturally they're better at something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of like letting them go, we'll repurpose what they're doing,
Yep.
right? And me and Joe, again, just had this conversation yesterday. We had a person in another branch that wasn't really not really doing that good. And I coached the branch manager, and the branch manager was like, I'm letting this girl go, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, well, what is she good at? And then when he started going over it, I'm like, well, why don't you put this person over here and move this person over here? And he was like, that's a great idea and that's going to work. Yep. And literally this morning he texted me already and he's like, everything's like fixed. I'm like, it's been like 2 hours, so that's probably not the case.
It's been 2 hours.
But I think that.
Glad it's off to a good start.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, because it worked. But I think you're right. I think being a good coach is because you've been doing it a long time. You've had a lot of failures. So you can kind of save people from doing the same thing. And so I feel like everybody needs a coach of some sort outside of their spouse or their relative, which is why I'm excited Joe's getting a coach other than me, because it's like, we have a different style. People have different styles and different experiences and stuff like that.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think coaching sometimes is about having like understanding that it's okay to fail and having those reassurances that it's okay. Because what happens is, at least for me, you fail and then it's like getting burned. You don't want to do it again. So you're like, I'm not doing that again because I know it doesn't work. But it could work just a little bit of a different way, like going down another road, for example.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like my take on that. So I think that's why I like coaching so much, is because I can save people from getting burnt. I guess.
Yeah, I can help you avoid that obstacle that I know is coming. I've built a business from X to X, and I know the hurdles you're going to hit. So when you get to a point, I've been there. Let me save you. But a lot of times, I don't know if you find this in coaching, I feel like some people have to feel the pain.
Yes.
They can't transition from a story, take the lesson, and then apply it. They actually need to, unfortunately, fall on their face and go, oh, that's what they were talking about. Yeah. Not going to do that again. Next time I'm going to go left when I feel like I should have gone right.
I think I'm really big on words. I feel like words are so powerful.
Absolutely.
And clearly, if you know me and you're my friend, I'm very wordy. I talk a lot, email a lot. I'm a very wordy person. I'm working on eliminating my words and making them a little bit more powerful. But there's some words that I think are really impactful, like having a choice. Like you coach people and you're like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and this, and they don't do it. And they, for whatever reason, whether it's, they don't want to do it, they make excuses, whatever. But I think it comes down to making a choice on, how you're going to do it. Are you going to learn from it? Are you going to make a change?
Are you bought in?
Yeah. Are you going to take action?
Yep.
Are you going to work hard? Like, it's all comes down to a choice. I think.
Absolutely.
And so when everybody's looking on social media and looking at people and hating just a little bit, or, or being happy and admiring just a little bit, like, I think everybody has the same ability as someone else. Like, we don't have like superpowers when we walk out of here. Or anything.
We're all human beings.
Yeah.
You like my new signs down in the office too?
I do. Which is a choice.
I put a sign up top, upstairs for like management, because I'm down on the first floor with everybody else, kind of like running the pit.
Yeah.
And because I like just be in it. That's just how I like it.
Sure.
But on the wall, if anybody like watches The Bear, they got this every second counts sign. I got that on both floors. And I have it right above everybody's desk. So that way, if they ever find themselves indirectly, we're all human beings, right? If you ever find yourself like falling off, you just feel a sign. You're like, okay, it's time to grind it out. So I think that's perfect. And I see it right from my office.
Yeah.
And of course, we love it. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
To kind of wrap up, so the saying we've used quite a few times, not wrap up overall, but that thought, we say all the time that it's your decisions, not your circumstances, that dictate your future. And it's the choices. It's like everything that we do comes down to the decision I make today is going to be who I become 10 years from now. The food I put in my mouth today will be how I feel a month from now. It's like all these decisions compound, and that's what people miss is compound interest. They know about it in money, but they don't think about it in their decision of what they actually absorb every day, whether it be music, podcasts, television, social media. They don't think about the food they put in their mouth, the amount of alcohol they put in their body, and how that compounds through time and
a lot
creates...
of people just don't even think about that. Not to interrupt you, but a lot of times a lot of people don't think about that with money either, which I see in mortgages all the time. So I have a client that I met with yesterday. She is 55 and her husband is a little bit older. I think he's 68, 69 maybe. And they type of business they have was a cash business. So they they only have Social Security. They don't have 401k. They don't have money market. They don't have anything, and they're literally still working, like both working, like
Scary.
in this cash business. They're talking like
working hard
8,
too.
10, 12-hour days, like on your feet, like working, right, like in a consumer business. And I said to her, I'm like, so she's saying her husband's not feeling well, blah blah. So I'm like, well, what happens in 5 years? Like, what does that look like? And she was saying that we're going to Greece. So I'm like, but you're going to Greece, but you haven't saved, like you have no compounding interest for your future, which is what made me think about that. And I just think that people really need to think about that. I think in this generation, for whatever reason, now the millennials, they don't save enough money.
No.
Like they're like
Yeah.
social media. I want to get my Botox. Want to get my hair done. Want to
Yeah.
go on vacation. Want to post this picture or whatever. And I just don't think people think a lot about the future. And now that I'm going to be 50, I'm going to tell you right now, it's something I think about a lot.
Yeah.
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 Well, we're the
Like, a
generation
lot.
of instant gratification. There's,
Well, yeah.
there's been no reason to delay gratification. And that's what we try to talk about on the show, right? Is you guys had to grind it out for a while. There wasn't the opportunity. Nobody was buying $2 million homes 15 years ago, 20 years ago that worked for you. Like it was out of the basement. It was something you were building. And then slowly but surely, everything compounded.
100%.
And it's like, and you probably diversified as well, right? And like that's what a lot of my generation we try to really school people to is like you should have IULs for your kids when they're born, so they have cash value, insurance policies, and real. If you have the money to invest in real estate, do it. And there's all these different tax incentives. We have accountants on that talk. It's like take care of the Augusta rule, have the vehicle write off, make sure you're taking your child tax credits. There's all these tools. But again, it's the people we surround ourselves with, being
Speaking
in
of
higher
which,
level rooms.
A nugget that I learned that I'm going to share with everybody about tax write-offs
Mhm.
is I learned in the last 2 years what a cost segregation is from a customer that I did a loan for. And honestly, it was like life-changing.
Mm.
So if you guys have another accountant on or you want to have a financial engineer on, have somebody on to explain cost segregation.
Okay.
And anyone that owns rental properties is going to love this thing forever. I'm going to tell you right now because it was literally changing. I've seen customers owe hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of the year, purchase investment properties, long-term and short-term, do cost segregations, and get hundreds of thousands of dollars back in refunds
Wow.
Yeah.
to then buy other properties if they want or
Yeah, because
whatever.
you're spreading the depreciation out. You're bringing it all. Yeah, accelerating depreciation.
Accelerating it
right?
out.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
We have a client that just used that. And, I actually had a really good conversation with his accountant, and he just went under contract. And he wouldn't have gone under contract if that conversation didn't happen.
Yeah.
So that, and
Yes,
that
and
house
also
had
the
to
other
happen.
loan we had, the one that you just got, the one that we locked yesterday that you asked
Exactly.
about the pricing.
Yeah.
She's another one that did that.
Mhm.
So it's like, guys, we get these tools, right? Not to plug ourselves or anything, from other people, and then we start consulting. We got to be careful because we don't have a license in financial planning, obviously.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we can share like, hey, talk to this financial engineer, or talk to this accountant, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's helping our borrowers like grow their investment portfolio.
And it's
which
value
hence-
that you're bringing. Like what
Absolutely.
other mortgage rep is bringing that type of value, right? Like you're not just getting them a loan. Anyone can do that, right?
Yeah.
You can go to the guy down the street, that bank, Wells Fargo, whoever, and they can get you a mortgage, right? But you're bringing additional value. Like what mortgage rep is advising on that type of stuff, or not even advising, but giving an outlet, to
Well,
that
because I
type
think
of
we
stuff.
care. Like I look at the
Mhm.
customers, like I want them to be our customer forever. Which thankfully, many of our customers are our customers forever. They've
Yeah.
used us numerous
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
But I look at it and say, like, what are your financial goals? Like, if you want to refi to lower your rate, okay, what's your goal? Like,
Yeah.
literally, is it to save $100
Mhm.
bucks? Okay, fine. But most of the time, it's not to save $100 bucks. Most of the time, it's like, I want to take a vacation. I need more money for groceries.
Yeah.
My kids go back to school or
want to
whatever.
skip some payments. I want to get some cushion. And like,
And we want to put that together, like, not just in that
Mhm.
loan, though. Like, in a lot of other areas.
you want to
I
make
guess.
that a
Yeah.
habit.
Lowering
Like,
their homeowners insurance, for
Right. 'Cause-
example.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I know
Yeah.
that like, we might be cutting a little close on time, but something that's I think super important that I just started recently doing that I don't think anyone, at least that I heard of, has started to do. I actually haven't even told you that I've been doing this with some clients.
There
But
we go. Let's hear it.
a lot of times I talk to clients, like we always do a consultation because people, they might want to buy a house, but they have no idea what that really even means,
Yeah.
which is fine. They shouldn't. And I always tell people, don't go on the internet. Don't watch YouTube videos. Just talk to me. We'll go over it, whatever. I'm not saying I'm smarter than everybody else in the world. I'm just saying I'll
Yeah.
funnel through.
Don't go on
But
Zillow
What I-
looking
Yeah,
at
I'm not gonna do
$700,000
that.
houses.
but the biggest thing is that people want to buy, let's say, a $300,000 house, but they have no idea how much that costs.
Mhm.
They have no idea if they can afford it.
Most
And
of the
like,
time,
let's say they don't have a ton of money saved because the economy is how the economy is. It's tough. I get it.
Yep.
So they want to use a grant, this, that, or the other, or maybe they got to work on things. So what I do is I go, have a conversation with your significant other or, with yourself, put things down on paper, come up with a budget. And then what I say is, let's say they don't have savings right now. And like say, okay, you live with mom, dad, family, whatever. I said, all right, perfect, do this. I'll follow up with you in 6 months. We work on the credit. We do these things. I give them the tools to do that.
Mhm.
If you want a $2,000 mortgage payment, have your checking account transfer $2,000 into your savings account every month and see how hard it
Like a
is.
mock.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Ooh,
it's how hard it
that's
is.
good.
And then if you
Yeah.
have 12 grand, you know you can do it. And guess what? Now you got $12,000 to use, and you
Yeah,
probably
save
don't have
up.
to do
Good
that
rationale
grant.
right
Get
there.
stuck
I like
in.
that.
And
That's
it
good.
works. It
Yeah.
works. I've done it like 3 times, and so far it's been great.
But you know
Yeah.
what? Honestly, and listen, we have a lot of loan officers. Like right now, under our portfolio, we manage 178 loan officers today.
Nice.
So we have a lot of loan officers that are calling and everything else. And I will tell you that their goal is I'm going to sell this loan. I'm going to pre-approve this person. I'm going to make my realtor thrilled,
Yep.
and I'm going to get them into a house, whatever. And I don't think another loan officer, I'm not knocking any of my loan officers. I love you guys, but I don't think that they would do that because,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and
because then they might like, I can't afford that. But like in reality, Joe, like what you're doing with that is like, listen, if they can't afford that $2,000 a month, they're going to see that in there, but they're probably going to buy something. Maybe the loan's not as big as what, you were hoping for, but ultimately like you're helping that person like live a happy life. Like way more than a mortgage
Aw.
rep just selling a
Those are
loan.
making me emotional.
Well, that's the thing too. People, you don't want people to run into a jam. Also, like somebody could get
A
approved
lot
for
of
a
people that are
loan.
mortgage broke, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and then they might be saving that up, and they realize, hey, that doesn't work, or God forbid, it does work, and they get the house, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But now, I have a kid on the way, so now I got more expense, and now I'm kind of running things dry. It's a good moment, and then you shouldn't rely on third party. Like you really shouldn't be relying on whatever the market's doing for your rate to drop for you to afford your mortgage payment with a refinance. You got to live in the now. Always live in the now with everything.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
I think
love
you
it.
guys are adding that kind of value, especially for all the investors out there. It's obviously an election year. So depending on who gets in office, some of those unrealized gains might come back to affect you. And you might need that cost segregation. So that was good info. Now I know, or I think we're almost there. So
Yeah.
we always end with a question from Ty.
Yeah. So I guess you can both answer this. You can do one and the other, or however you want to work it. But give us, our listeners, a mistake that you potentially made or that you did make in the past, but like something that really led you to a huge lesson where you look back and you're thankful that, I'm thankful that I screwed up here or that this happened to me, because looking back, I'm here because of that.
Oh, I got a big one, if that's okay.
No,
Yeah.
please, you go first. I'd love to hear it.
So we come to Cross Country Mortgage a little over 8 years ago, and at that time I was a top producer at Annie Mac. I had made my first $1 million that year, and I was leaving that company, which people were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you had your best year ever, and you were leaving that company, right?" But I was looking for something different. They were a great company. I was looking for something different, and I left. So Cross Country gives me a ton of money to come. I've said this story 100 times, and I come here, and I thought that me and Jay, and I'll speak for myself, that I knew how to run a business, because I was coming on as a net branch, so I had to run it as a business. And I ran through all the money that they gave me. I didn't know how to run a business. I was overstaffed ridiculously because I had all these people and I thought they needed to do these things. I didn't have job descriptions. I didn't have people dialed in. I didn't have their top threes. I didn't have daily team meetings. I didn't have people in the right positions. It was just literally like a nightmare. Long and short is the CEO, being amazing, was like, "No problem, kid. I believe in you. And I'm going to give you another $250,000 on top of the
Damn.
tons of money that he had already given me," right?
Yeah.
6 months later, I'm negative on me and P&L again.
Oh.
Like negative, right? So he comes to me and he's like, listen, he sits me down. I'll never forget this in my whole life. And he says, "I believe in you. I know that you know how to run a business. I know that you can learn the things that you don't already know." So he basically didn't call me a failure, right? He didn't say, "You don't know how to run a business." He said, "I know you know how to run a business," which I believe that I didn't at the time, which I thought was really enlightening because he didn't say, "You failed."
Yeah.
He said, "I know you can succeed," in the words that he used, right? And then he said, "I'm going to bail you out now for the third time," which is almost $1.5 million. And I had been here for a year. Okay? $1.5 million that he's given me. And I had never worked with this CEO before, right? In the first year. So he gets me clean again. And then he says, "Now I'm going to set you up with the people in Ohio in the right positions to teach you how to run a business." And I sat with the COO and the financial engineer and HR, because I didn't even, in mortgages, we're like, "HR? What's HR?" Legal, compliance. And
Yeah.
he literally taught me, he's like, "This is what being a mortgage net branch owner looks like." And so I, got me coaches that cost like $3,500 a month. And I would not be where I am today making 3 and 4 times what I made in my past now, having, we have 7 different businesses operating on a daily basis. which I don't tell people because then they're like, oh, she's too busy, but I got it all under control, I promise.
That's right.
I have people to do
Leveraged,
all
you're
those things.
leveraged,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, but it's like, but I'm doing all that because I learned how to run a business. And if I didn't have those failures and I didn't lose all that money and I wasn't afraid, I would never be where we are right now as a business, like ever.
Well, hats
So-
off to that guy. I hope you send him something nice every
And that
Christmas.
explains the
He's-
loyalty.
He's amazing.
Phenomenal.
That
Yeah,
explains the
that's
loyalty for,
Yeah.
you being there that long.
Well, that's
But
also
the biggest thing is like
back
he
to
believed
culture.
in me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah, not just the
and
money.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
awesome.
what I really want to pass on to other people is like, maybe you're not really great at that job. Maybe you're better at another job, but I'm not going to just throw you out on the sidelines
Mhm.
because
Right.
like that's just not being a good leader, I don't think.
They're going to coach
Yeah.
you up. Good
Awesome.
luck, Joe. All right, you got to beat that store.
Follow up on that one.
Thankfully,
buddy.
I haven't made it.
Dig deep in the bag, brother.
At least not lately. No $250,000 mistakes multiple times. Thank goodness. At least not yet. But no, I would say mine's actually one that bothered me for a long time. What I would do is, and it kind of goes into like the social media aspect, but what I found was when I was, working like a dog and I was constantly comparing myself nonstop to other people that were successful, that were already in this business 20, 30, 40 years longer than I have been. And I kept getting in my own head on like, I'm living in my mom's shadow. People are going to think I got a handout. People are going to think I'm young. People are going to think whatever. And then I don't know. I would say realistically, maybe like around the time I got married, going like 5 years or so, I realized it's just nobody cares. Like nobody cares.
No.
Like you're your
Right.
own main character in your story.
Yep.
And the only one that's gonna do the things that are gonna get done the way you want to do it, like is you. Like nobody cares. Like
Yep.
nobody cares about the things that you have, the car that you drive. They don't care about at the end of the day, it could be the most emotional thing in the world, but it just ends up being a Facebook post,
Absolutely.
right?
And they forget about it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I
Exactly.
don't remember what
Like,
car you had. You know what I mean?
exactly. Like
Maybe when I
think-
passed it, I was like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But then you forget about it.
Yeah, you
and,
got
like,
some
it's-
people going,
it's
oh,
not your
that's
life.
cool, and they're click, but they're not making the car payment.
Right.
So like, who
Right,
cares?
right. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So like, my whole thing is for me was once I realized that I had to just better myself in all aspects and focus just on my circle, on like my village or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
I started doing better business. I started being a better husband. I started being a better father. I started being a better son. And I tried to, and almost became like almost an OCD habit on just how I view everything. So, and I don't really know what it was. I think everyone waits for like that day you wake up and like it's just like, oh, your problem is solved. It's not like that. It's like a process.
Yeah.
So I don't have a sure answer as to a moment or
Right.
But what I do know is that if you're just patient and you just stop focusing on all the background noise and just focus on yourself, everything will kind of just bleed out from there. Like I think everything will just funnel through. And I think that's where you got to start. You just got to focus with yourself.
Amen, brother.
That's a good follow-up.
I'm a
That
firm
is really
believer of the
good.
1% every day, right? The only person you should really be comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday.
But I am going to say this. I know both of you, I just met you today.
Mhm.
You all, work in some dynamic or another with your moms or with, directly with your mom. And you are fathers, you all are grown men, and you all have earned all of your success on your own. We have not given you anything. And if your mom was sitting here and your mom was sitting here, I know you both, I know for sure they would say that.
Yeah.
And I know for sure your mom tells me, she's like, I don't know how Tyler does everything he does. I don't know. Like she is so in awe of your success and the type of person that you are, because I speak to her about it all the time. It would probably blow your mind, the stuff that she says about you.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy. Yeah.
it's-
well, thank you
I
so
just
much.
want you guys to know
Dude,
that.
you
Like,
are a
you
beast.
so
you
much.
never have to feel like you're in anybody's shadow because you deserved and earned everything on your own every day.
Love that.
Love it. That's a good way to end.
That is.
Shit.
So, real quick before we sign off, Terri and Joe, how can folks connect with you? What's the best social media, website? How do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So you can contact our branch. We just built a new office in Deptford. So if you're familiar
Beautiful,
with the
beautiful
Deptford Mall,
office.
you can't miss it. We're right on the corner of Cooper and Almanesson, across from the fire department. But you can call us as far as, well, I'll give you the Philly
Give
number
yourself,
for
give
right now.
yourself.
My cell. You can call my cell phone too.
Oh, put it out there.
I can tell you, forewarning, if you call me after 8 o'clock, I probably will answer, but that's witching hour. So you can call my cell phone, 856-776-6879, text, call, and you can email our team, which is teamparker@ccm.com with anything that you need. And I can promise you we could find a resource to help you if it's not us.
Love
and
it.
we speak Spanish.
Love
Boom.
that.
Yeah,
Bilingual.
Spanish
Let's go. So Terry and Joe, grateful for you two coming here today. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for spending time
Super
and enlightening our guests. And for all of our viewers, as always, have the best day ever.
Best
See you
day
next
ever,
time.
fam.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
See you later.